Under that song, Spirit is Calling, it reminds me that our focus this year is about Spirit calling us and how to activate spirituality in our life as a way of responding to that call. And how to activate spirituality is the good question. How do you do that? And, well, I think it's by making space for it in your daily life. And what is the it that you're making space for is the really good question. And actually that's part of the activation, to find out what it is so you can throw the switch and activate it. You know, that's what it is. So what we're doing is we're looking at 12 key ideas, I guess you can call them spiritual values, to see what will happen if we bring them into a strong position in our awareness on a daily basis. Does it change our experience of life and our relationship to the world around us? And if you are using the daily interactive guide, you probably noticed around about a short while ago the shift towards this month's theme, because this month is all about activating love in your life, and not just romantic love, not just love in your community, but really love as what you are, as the way you relate to everything, love as the only thing you know how to do. So that's what we're looking at. How do we do this? And the idea is that when we are in love, then we're in the right place. And we're looking how to find our way into that if you've stumbled or strayed away from that. You know, I like the idea of activating as a theme, activating spirituality or activating love, because to me it conveys this idea of options. You know, turn it on, activate it, it's a choice, because I don't like to be told what to do. Do you? You know, so I love this. The way I see it is that here are these ideas. There's love, and there's honesty, and there's service, and there's compassion. But there are options. Turn it on or don't turn it on. They still remain available. You know, it's like the color blue. Just because the color blue exists, it doesn't mean I have to paint my house blue. And if I decide not to paint my house blue, well, blue still continues to exist. And that's really important, especially in this particular month where the focus is on love, activated or not. Nobody's going to make you. It's an option. In fact, it's an experiment. You get to play with it. What happens when I bring this idea of being loving right into the focus of my awareness and live from it? Does it have any impact on how I relate to the world, my experience of life? In the little handout that you received with your announcement page, it's got this really interesting bit of writing that says, you know, to truly get loving others in particular, you really have to get loving yourself. And another way of saying that is the way I love others, or even my environment, has got something to do with how I know to love myself. So we're just starting there. We're just diving in right over there with the question, how do I show self-love? What are the things that I do that show self-love, you know? Assuming that there is a perfect way for you and me to show self-love to ourselves, we want to activate that, to deepen that more so we can live in there and live from there and relate to people from that. You know, so I started there. I dived right in to take a look at how do I treat myself and does that show self-love? You know. Look, when you're sitting on a flight from Cape Town to Frankfurt for 9 hours and then a 5-hour layover and then 11-hour flight from Frankfurt to San Francisco, you have a lot of time to think about these things. You know, so I started to think about it. How do I treat myself? I even thought about how do the people in my close circle of friends, in my community, how do they treat themselves? And what I discovered was actually there's room for improvement. I mean, without getting even spiritual, without even getting too metaphysical or mystical or philosophical, just straightforward evaluation of how I treat myself when it comes to things like schedule, nutrition, rest, friendships, habits, and so on, see, there's room for improvement. And so as I started to think about this on the flight, I didn't want to get overwhelmed by all the places where there could be improvements. I started to organize it into categories, 4 main areas of where there's room for me to activate a love of myself, so I could flip that switch and start to live in a way that illustrates that kind of self-appreciation, And here's what I discovered, and maybe it's true for you too. There are 4 ways, at least, in which I don't show terrific self-love. Number 1, I move too fast. Number 2, I don't have good self-discipline. Number 3, it's easy for me to get in a rut, to get out of inspiration, to get out of love, and get into same old, to allow it. And number 4, I'm pretty weak in the area of balance, I can get out of balance easily, and then I can do that whole thing, being too strict, and then too, balance is an issue. So I'm just going to look at those 4 areas to see if I can activate something in there to bring more greater awareness of self-love. And so they are, just so that you can work along with me, see if it's of any value to you. Number 1, to take time, to take the time that is required for me to do a satisfying job by me in whatever it is that I'm doing at any moment, So I can pour myself into it. So you can pour yourself into it. And the second one is, people love this word, discipline. We'll talk about it. But to discipline yourself to follow, your innate wisdom. I call it your heart. To follow your wisdom rather than to follow every single impulse and every single preference. When I started to investigate this, I noticed just how much time was freed up when I turned away from impulse or habit-driven activities. Whew. The third one is to inspire yourself, to put yourself in the kind of environments, among the kind of people, and engaged in the kind of activities that you really love. I'm reminded of a minister friend of mine who loves her work, and she loves working with people, but she was finding herself exhausted because she had forgotten that in all that working with people, she was also allowed to spend time with people that she truly enjoyed spending time with, that, blessed her and lifted her up. She forgot that part, And then the last one is balance, And balance is appreciating the middle ground so that you can make allowances for being indulgent, for having special moments, treats, surprises, impulses, Because for me, if I know I can have chocolate at any time, then maybe I won't want it all of the time. That's the kind of thinking. So let's start with, I don't want to discuss that. It may not be a good illustration, but you get the idea. But we'll start with number 1, to take the time, to take your time. I was on this flight from Cape Town to Germany, and getting onto the flight to Frankfurt. I like to sit at the back of the plane. I love sitting at the back of the bus. I don't know why I enjoy that so very much. Anyway, there we were getting on the plane, and this couple behind me seemed to be in a tremendous rush to get to their seats. Then the lady in front of me stops the traffic because now she has to unload everything she needs from her backpack, which is